I caught my brother cheating with my wife 1 week before his wedding. When I warned his fiancée, she just stared me down and said, "You're lying, I trust him." Turns out she lied to me too. On the wedding day, in front of 500 guests, she exposed everything she had known all along. I never imagined my own brother and my wife would be the architects of my undoing. But the moment their secret lives collided, my world didn't just shift, it shattered, and I knew nothing would ever be the same. 2 months ago, if you'd told me this, I would have laughed, dismissed it as some twisted movie plot. But here I am, Alex, 33, living just outside Atlanta, piecing together the wreckage of a life I thought was solid. I was always the quiet one, the steady hand. The guy who'd show up for anything, no questions asked. Caleb, my younger brother? He was the supernova. Loud, reckless, charming as hell. The kind of guy who could set fire to the living room and somehow make it look like art. Growing up, he got away with everything: broken windows, failing grades, even wrecking Dad David's old truck. My parents, Maria and David, would just shake their heads, scold him lightly, then move on like nothing happened. Meanwhile, I got grounded for an A in chemistry. That was our dynamic. Caleb could do no wrong, and I was the responsible one everyone assumed didn't need attention. It used to annoy me, but as an adult, I let it slide. We were different, and that was fine. Chloe was his polar opposite. Or so I believed. Composed, kind, meticulous. We met 6 years ago at a friend's birthday. She was reading at the bar, ignoring the party, and I asked what book she had. That turned into 2 drinks, a long walk under string lights, and eventually a wedding 2 years later. We'd been together 4 years before we tied the knot. I thought I knew her. I thought I knew them both. But looking back, the cracks were there, subtle at first. It started when Caleb announced his engagement to Hannah. She was sweet, a little innocent maybe, and completely adored Caleb. My parents were thrilled. "She's exactly what Caleb needs," Maria beamed, "someone to bring him down to earth." Hannah would laugh at Caleb's jokes like they were the funniest thing she'd ever heard, even when they were objectively terrible. She made him feel like a hero, and Caleb loved that. Then Caleb started showing up at our place more often. Unannounced. A 6-pack on a Tuesday. At first, it felt normal, brothers hang out, right? Chloe would cook, we'd talk. But then I noticed them. Teasing, inside jokes I wasn't privy to, quick glances when I said something that didn't quite land. It wasn't overt, just subtle enough that I brushed it off. But it kept happening. Caleb would text Chloe directly, asking if he could come over while I was still at work. I found that out by accident. Her phone buzzed during a movie night. Caleb's name, clear as day, "Still on for tonight? Alex working late?" A cold wave washed over me. "Why is Caleb texting you about tonight?" I asked, trying to sound casual. She didn't even blink. "He wanted to watch that sci-fi show. You said you hated it, remember?" It was smooth. Too smooth. At the time, I believed it. But something felt off. I told myself I was being paranoid, that I was just tired. I trusted her. Caleb was my brother. But things kept piling up. One night, I came home early. Chloe wasn't expecting me. I heard laughter from the kitchen, the kind that makes your gut clench. There they were, sharing wine, leaning in close, not touching, but dangerously close. They both shot up, too quickly. Chloe looked caught. Caleb just grinned. "Hey, man. Surprise visit, huh?" I said nothing. Not then. Not the next day. But the seed was planted. My trust fractured. I started noticing everything. Her phone, suddenly private. Caleb always mentioning Chloe in casual conversation. Her new perfume, the one I never saw her buy. I knew. I just needed proof. Solid proof. And I got it a week before Caleb's wedding. Thursday night. I left work early, parked down the street. Waited. And just like clockwork, Caleb's car pulled into my driveway. 10 minutes later, I walked to the house. Silent. Lights dim. I could hear them, not just voices, but whispers, giggles. I pushed the door open. Quietly. And there they were. My wife. My brother. On my couch. I froze. Couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, to tear the place apart. But I didn't. I walked out, just as quietly, and drove away. No confrontation. Not yet. I wasn't giving them the satisfaction of an explosion. My first thought? Hannah deserved to know. The next morning, I messaged her, "Hey, we need to talk. It's important." We met at a coffee shop. She looked nervous. I didn't waste time. Told her everything. The timeline, the patterns, even showed her a screenshot from Chloe's phone I'd managed to snap a week before. Caleb's text, "Last night was insane. Can't stop thinking about you." Hannah just stared at me. For a long time. Then she smiled. A sharp, chilling smile. "I know," she said. My stomach dropped. "What?" "I knew," she repeated. Or at least I suspected. 2 months ago, I found photos, messages on his phone. I confronted him, and he said it was over. A mistake. I couldn't believe it. "Then why are you still marrying him?" She looked down, swirling her coffee. "Because I want to watch him burn. You're not the only one he's harmed, Alex." I didn't know what to say. "I'm going to marry him," she looked up, meeting my eyes. "And at the wedding, in front of every single person who thinks he's a prince, I'm going to destroy him." I sat there, stunned. Suddenly, I wasn't alone. We were on the same team. And that's where everything started to change. Hannah and I didn't talk for a few days, but her words echoed in my head, "I want to watch him burn." It echoed as I lay awake next to Chloe each night, pretending to sleep, wondering if she was texting him under the covers. I started to notice how cold I'd gone, like a switch had flipped. I wasn't angry in the way you'd expect, no shouting, no broken walls. Just numb. Like I was preserving all my rage for something precise, something final. Caleb kept visiting, bold as ever. The weekend before the wedding, he stopped by to borrow a tool, but hung around for an hour, cracking jokes, complimenting Chloe's cooking like we were all best friends. Chloe smiled like nothing had happened. She even called me babe in front of him, like some cruel joke. I studied every glance between them. The split-second eye contact. The half smiles. It was a show, and I was the only one not laughing. My parents, as usual, were blind. Or maybe they just didn't want to see it. Caleb was the star of the family. Always had been. I was just the background character. The guy who never caused trouble. At dinner the Sunday before the wedding, Maria asked, "Alex, when are you and Chloe going to start trying for kids?" Caleb snorted into his wine. Chloe blushed. Not a happy blush. The caught-off-guard kind. I stared at her for a full beat. "Maybe not while we're still sharing her with someone else," I said, my voice quiet, calm. The table went silent. David cleared his throat. "That's not funny, son." Caleb chuckled nervously. "Come on, man, what's that supposed to mean?" Chloe whispered, "Alex, can we not do this here?" "I'm just answering a question," I said. She asked. I answered. Maria shook her head like I'd embarrassed them. "You know, sometimes it feels like you just want to ruin the mood." I almost laughed. That's who I was to them, the mood ruiner. Caleb could burn the house down, and they'd blame the oven. That night, I barely spoke on the ride home. Chloe tried to brush it off, said she understood I was stressed about work. I just nodded. Let her think that. Let her believe I was unraveling while she danced around with a smile and her perfect little secret. But the truth was, I wasn't unraveling. I was documenting. Everything. Every glance. Every time she left the room to grab something from the store, but came back an hour later without a single bag. Every time Caleb showed up when I wasn't home. I even started recording our doorbell cam and checking the timestamps against her texts. I was building a case. Slowly. Methodically. Then came the rehearsal dinner. Held at a high-end restaurant in downtown Seattle. Caleb swaggered in, white dress shirt unbuttoned just enough to look cocky, his arm around Hannah like he was a movie star. Chloe and I walked in together, her hand lightly in mine like nothing was wrong. She looked beautiful. It made me sick. We took our seats, and I watched Hannah from across the room. She was radiant, smiling brightly, toasting with champagne. But every now and then, I saw it, the flicker in her eyes when Caleb wasn't looking. A darkness. A plan brewing. There was a moment, mid-toast, when Caleb stood up to thank everyone. None of this would have been possible without my amazing fiancé, who believed in me, even when I didn't believe in myself. The room applauded. He kissed her on the cheek. She smiled, held his hand, and leaned into the microphone. And I want to thank someone else. Someone who reminded me recently that trust isn't just about blind faith. It's about truth. And truth, my friends, is a funny thing. It always shows up eventually. There was a pause. Not long, but long enough to feel it. Caleb laughed like it was a joke. Chloe looked nervous. I just sipped my drink. After dinner, Hannah found me outside while I was smoking a cigarette I didn't even want. She looked tense. You still good? I asked. She nodded. I've got everything ready. The slideshow. The audio. Even the seating chart. The seating chart? I blinked. Trust me, she said. Everyone important will be exactly where I want them. There was something unnerving about how calm she was. But I respected it. We were two betrayed people holding knives behind our backs, smiling until the curtain dropped. Back home, Chloe was quiet. She curled up next to me in bed and whispered, "You've been distant lately." I turned toward her slowly. Have I? She nodded. Is it us? Maybe, I said. Maybe I'm just realizing we're not who I thought we were. She looked at me like she wanted to say something. Maybe she would have confessed. Maybe she would have lied again. I didn't care. I just watched her in silence, waiting for her to fall asleep so I could slip out of bed and add another note to my file. The night before the wedding, Caleb texted me, nervous as hell. You ever get cold feet before yours? I stared at the message for a long time. Then I typed, a little, but I ignored it. He replied with a laughing emoji. Classic you, bro. I wanted to throw my phone through the window. The morning of the wedding, everything felt too calm. The sky was clear. The venue, a massive hall just outside the city, was decorated with white roses and navy ribbons. I showed up in a tailored suit, hair combed, shoes shining like it was any other wedding. I nodded to guests, hugged an aunt, shook David's hand. Caleb was in the groom's suite, cracking jokes with his groomsmen. He gave me a side hug. Can you believe it, man? Me, finally locking it down. I stared at him. Yeah, I said. I believe it. He grinned. You've always been the boring one. Stable. I'm the risk taker. But look who's getting married first. I smiled just enough. Yeah, look. Chloe arrived shortly after, slipping into her seat like a beautiful wife. She wore a pale blue dress and that same signature perfume I used to love. It made me nauseous now. She leaned in. You okay? Never better, I said. It tasted like ash. The ceremony was beautiful. Choreographed like a movie. Hannah walked down the aisle to soft piano music, her dress elegant and simple. Caleb looked smitten. I could almost believe it was real. Then came the reception. Dinner was served. Toasts were made. Caleb stood and gave a speech full of gratitude and charisma. Finally, he said, to my beautiful bride. You're the light of my life. I'm the luckiest man in the world. Everyone applauded. Hannah stood. She tapped her glass with a fork. Before we get too drunk, I have something to share. A little surprise. Caleb looked confused. Nervous. What are you doing? Hannah smiled. You'll see. The lights dimmed. The projector flickered on. A slideshow began. Pictures of their relationship. Beach trips, holidays, laughing selfies. The crowd cooed and clapped. Then the photos changed. A screenshot of Caleb's texts, explicit, unmistakable. A blurry photo of him kissing someone who wasn't Hannah. Another message, she'll never know. I've got her wrapped around my finger. Gasps rippled through the room. Chloe turned white. Caleb stood up. What the hell is this? Hannah smiled coldly. Truth. He lunged toward the projector, but someone had locked the laptop case. People were whispering. A cousin had their phone out. Maria stood frozen, wineglass trembling in her hand. Chloe looked at me, eyes wide, pleading. I didn't move. Caleb's voice cracked through the ballroom like a glass shattering in slow motion. Turn it off. Turn it off. He was storming toward the projector, swatting at the screen like a man drowning in his own lies. Someone, maybe one of Hannah's college friends, shouted, Is that Chloe? Another voice followed. Isn't that his brother's wife? And just like that, the avalanche began. Maria looked like someone had just dropped a live wire in her wineglass. She stood stiff and pale, lips parted as if words might fall out. None did. David was frozen trying to compute what he was seeing. Caleb yanked the cord from the projector and the screen went black, but it didn't matter. The damage was done. Half the guests had already seen enough to connect the dots. Phones were buzzing. Hannah was gone. Just walked off the stage with her head held high. I didn't even notice when she slipped out until I heard a door shut somewhere in the distance. I stayed rooted in my seat. Chloe across the table was staring at me like a ghost. Not Caleb. Me. She knew. She knew this wasn't just Hannah's revenge. It was mine, too. Caleb turned to me like a man possessed. You knew, he hissed, chest heaving. You knew and you didn't say anything. I stared at him for a long second and took a slow sip of champagne. I guess we both kept secrets. He started toward me, but two of his groomsmen caught his arms. Not here, man. Just stop. Chloe stood, voice shaking. Alex, we need to talk. I stood too. We're long past talking. And then, without another word, I walked out of the hall slowly, calmly, like I was leaving a funeral, which in some ways I was. That was the day I lost two of the people I loved most. The day I became the guy everyone suddenly had an opinion about. The quiet brother who let it all play out like a ticking time bomb. The husband whose wife cheated with his own flesh and blood. The villain or the hero, depending on which side you asked. But for me, it was the day the fog lifted, and everything after that was harder and yet clearer. The days that followed were brutal. I didn't go home that night, slept in my car at a rest stop off the interstate. I didn't want to face the house we'd built together, the one I now saw as a crime scene. When I finally did return, I half expected Chloe to be gone. But she wasn't. She was waiting in the living room, sitting stiffly on the edge of the couch with her suitcase beside her and a stack of papers in her lap. She stood when I walked in. "Alex, please." I walked right past her, grabbed a duffel bag from the hall closet and started filling it. "I messed up," she said. Her voice cracked. "I was lonely. You were always working, always tired." Caleb, he was there. I zipped the bag without looking at her. "You cheated, Chloe. Not because you were lonely, because you wanted to. That's it." Tears started to fall. "He said he loved me. He said you didn't." I spun around. "Don't you dare. Don't you dare try to justify what you did by turning this around on me. I gave you everything. I gave you my trust, my home, my future, and you threw it away for some attention from my brother." She flinched. "You're right. I did. I'm sorry." I paused at the door, heart pounding. Then I left. I stayed with a friend for a week. Ben, a guy I knew from college. He had a spare room and a quiet way of not asking too many questions. I slept like the dead, waking up only to eat, shower, and stare at the ceiling, trying to make sense of it all. I kept getting texts. From Maria, "We need to talk." From Caleb, "This isn't how it should have gone." From Chloe, "I still love you." I blocked them all except Hannah. She texted me 3 days after the wedding. "Hope you're okay. If you ever need someone to talk to who understands, I'm here." I didn't reply at first. I didn't know what to say, but the message stuck with me. Not because I needed sympathy, but because she got it. The betrayal, the humiliation, the way everyone suddenly saw you through a cracked lens, like your worth was up for public debate. A week later, I moved into a studio apartment downtown Seattle, small, quiet, mine. It felt weird at first. The empty silence, the absence of shared habits. No more 2 coffee mugs in the sink. No more shoes by the door, just me, my thoughts, and the creaking of the radiator at night. But in that quiet, something started to grow. A spark, a flicker of something that felt a lot like freedom. I dove into work, took on more projects, stayed late without feeling like I had to rush home. I started going to the gym again, not because I was chasing some revenge body cliché, but because I needed to feel strong, in control. I watched my shoulders square up again in the mirror. My eyes stopped looking tired. I got therapy, too. I didn't tell anyone. I just walked into a downtown office one Tuesday and sat down in front of a woman named Dr. Reed. She didn't talk much at first, just listened while I unloaded everything. The betrayal, the guilt, the rage, the numbness. I told her I felt like a fool, like a supporting character in someone else's twisted drama. She told me something I didn't expect. "Alex," she said, "sometimes people betray us not because we're weak, but because they assume we'll forgive them. That's not weakness. That's trust. And they broke it." That stuck with me. I started journaling. Nothing fancy, just messy notes, bullet points of thoughts and memories. The day I realized something was off. The moment I saw them on the couch, the silence in the car ride to the rehearsal dinner. It helped. It gave structure to the chaos in my head. About a month later, I bumped into Hannah at a bookstore. Completely unplanned. She was holding a stack of hardcovers and looked more peaceful than I'd ever seen her. She saw me, paused, then smiled. "Hey, stranger." We went for coffee again, just 2 people with scars, not looking for anything, but needing to be heard. She told me her family had been split over the wedding stunt, that some people called her dramatic or cruel, but she didn't regret it. He needed to be exposed, she said simply. And I needed to take my power back. I nodded. I get it now. We kept talking after that. Casual, friendly, supportive. And yet underneath it, there was this strange sense of shared survival. We'd both been shattered by the same people, and we were both piecing ourselves back together, one breath at a time. The final nail came when I got the divorce papers. Chloe sent them through a lawyer with a handwritten note clipped inside. I'm sorry. Truly, I hope someday you find peace. I signed them without hesitation. Peace wasn't something I found in a courtroom or a settlement. It came slowly through quiet nights and honest mornings. Through not checking my phone every 2 minutes, through learning to enjoy my own company, through remembering who I was before I became someone else's second choice. One night, Hannah and I sat on a botanical garden bench watching the sun dip behind the buildings. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't said anything? If we just walked away? She asked quietly. I thought about it. Then they would have won, I said. And we'd still be bleeding in silence. She smiled. I like this version better. So did I. And just when I thought the dust had finally settled, when I thought the worst was behind me, I got a call that changed everything. It was Caleb. Blocked number, but his voice unmistakable. Alex, he said low and urgent. You need to stop whatever Hannah's planning. You've made your point. Don't let her ruin everything. I didn't reply because I had no idea what he was talking about, but I was about to find out. Caleb's voice still echoed in my ear long after I hung up. You've made your point. Don't let her ruin everything. It was an odd thing to say, because from my perspective, everything was already ruined. Hannah's public takedown at the wedding, which I now realized was only phase 1, had already scorched the earth around Caleb. But something about the way he said it, it didn't sound like regret. It sounded like fear. Not of Hannah, not even of me, but of something deeper. Something he thought she was still hiding. I hadn't spoken to Hannah in a couple of weeks. We'd both gone quiet after the divorce finalized. Maybe out of self-preservation. Maybe because we were trying to figure out who we were without the shadow of betrayal hovering over us. But after Caleb's call, I texted her. Me, did you do something recently? Hannah, define something. Me, Caleb called me. Said to stop you before you ruin everything. What is he talking about? Hannah, meet me tonight. 7. Same coffee shop. When I walked in, she was already there. Hair tied back, black turtleneck, laptop open in front of her. She looked up, gave me a small, tired smile. He called you, too? She asked, not even looking surprised. I nodded and slid into the seat across from her. What's going on, Hannah? She turned the laptop toward me. On the screen was a folder. Dozens of files, screenshots, PDFs, voicemails. He didn't just cheat, she said. Caleb's been lying about a lot more than that. I scrolled. A tax document. An email thread with some guy named Seth. Something about diverting payments, bank statements that didn't match what Caleb always bragged about. What am I looking at? I asked. She leaned forward. He's been siphoning money from his own startup for over a year, taking silent investments from people he never intended to pay back. Some of them family friends, my dad included. My heart rate quickened. Wait, your dad? The guy who helped fund his app launch? Hannah nodded. He put in $50,000. Caleb promised him equity. Signed papers, but they were fake. My dad only found out after the wedding fiasco when he started digging. Holy hell. Hannah locked eyes with me. He's looking at potential fraud charges if this gets out. So why hasn't it? I asked. She smirked. Because I haven't let it yet. The wedding wasn't the climax. It was just the first domino. I'm not done. Not by a long shot. She closed the laptop and lowered her voice. Caleb's entire ego depends on 3 things. His charm, his image, and his business acumen. Take away the last one, and the other 2 crumble with it. And here's the thing. He doesn't know how much I know. Then why the call? I asked. Why warn me now? Hannah hesitated. Because I've started moving pieces behind the scenes. Quietly. I've contacted a couple of his investors anonymously. Sent them just enough to spark questions. That's dangerous, I said, leaning back. He's vindictive. You know that. I do, she said. Which is why I'm not going to be the one to finish this. We are. I blinked. Me? She pulled out a manila folder and slid it across the table. This is everything he said about you in private texts to me, to others, to Chloe. I hesitated, then opened it. There they were. Screenshots. Alex is a boring coward. Always has been. He doesn't satisfy her. Never did. She told me that. I deserve everything he has. He doesn't even appreciate it. He's pathetic, but useful. A cold wave washed over me. I wasn't surprised. Not really. But seeing it laid out so clearly, it lit something in me. Not rage, not sadness. Resolve. I want to hit him where it hurts, I said slowly. Not just emotionally. I want to end his lies publicly. Hannah nodded. Then let's get to work. The next few weeks were a blur of preparation. Hannah had already created a digital trail of Caleb's shady dealings. What she needed was credibility. Someone who wasn't just the bitter ex-fiancé stirring the pot. That's where I came in. We decided to build a case. Not for the police, not yet, but for the court of public opinion, investors, clients, mutual contacts, the people Caleb needed to keep his golden boy reputation afloat. I reached out to Ben, my college friend. He worked in finance and had a background in due diligence. I showed him the documents. He was stunned. This is enough to ruin him, he said. And possibly enough to open an SEC investigation if the right people see it. Will you help? I asked. He nodded gladly. We built a timeline of Caleb's lies, financial missteps, manipulation, toxic behavior masked as entrepreneurial risk. Hannah handled the messaging. I handled the outreach. Ben helped us navigate the legal gray areas. We didn't post anything online. That would have been too easy to dismiss. Instead, we leaked one document to a former investor who'd ghosted Caleb months ago. One voice memo to a local journalist known for writing about startup fraud. One screenshot to a Reddit thread discussing shady business founders. We used dummy accounts. VPNs layered the drops over time so it looked organic, not coordinated. Then we waited. And sure enough, within a week things started cracking. The first email came from an investor. Caleb, I came across some concerning documents. We need to talk. Then a second, why is there a discrepancy in the Q3 returns? Caleb tried to get ahead of it, of course. Sent out a blanket email to his board calling the leaks fake news. Blamed a disgruntled ex. Didn't specify which one, but it didn't matter. The truth had traction now. The journalist published a piece titled Local Startup Darling Under Scrutiny for Potential Fraud and included enough breadcrumbs that people started whispering. Then came the phone call. Maria, Alex, she said, voice tense. What is going on with Caleb's company? I played dumb. What do you mean? I just got a call from one of his uncles. There's an article. Something about missing funds. People are saying Hannah leaked it. I waited. Did she? I don't know, she snapped. I thought you might. Why would I know? I said evenly. She went quiet. This family's falling apart. No, I said, it's just finally showing its cracks. She didn't call again, but Caleb did. Voicemail this time. His voice was tight. Controlled rage bubbling just beneath the surface. I know it was you. Both of you. You think this makes you better than me? It makes you pathetic. You think people will see you as some noble hero? No one cares about the truth, Alex. They care about winning, and I always win. He was wrong. Because he was losing fast. Hannah called me that night. He just shut down the company's social media accounts. I smiled. He's trying to plug holes in a sinking ship. I hope he drowns in it. Not yet, I said. There's one more piece. Because I hadn't told her everything. After the wedding, when I was staying at Ben's, I went through one of my old storage drives just trying to distract myself. I found an old backup of our home security footage from the weeks leading up to the wedding. I'd copied it all in a fog, too heartbroken to even process what I was saving. But now I had time-stamped video clear as day. Caleb and Chloe entering my house while I was gone, leaving hours later. Sometimes even using my guest key. And in one clip, one horrifying, searing clip, Caleb opens the fridge, grabs a beer, and turns to Chloe. We should do this in your bed next time. You know, really mark the territory. She laughs. You're evil. He winks at the camera. At the camera. He knew. He knew I might be watching someday. That's the kind of arrogance I'd been up against. But arrogance makes people sloppy. And now I had everything. The decision to go public wasn't made lightly. It wasn't about theatrics anymore. It was about finality, about making sure Caleb and Chloe couldn't crawl away from this unscathed like they always had. They'd built a house of lies on the assumption that people like me wouldn't speak up, that people like Hannah would quietly move on. But we weren't quiet anymore, and we weren't moving on without justice. I met with Hannah and Ben one last time before we pulled the trigger. We sat in Ben's downtown Seattle office, the city lights buzzing below us as we went over the plan. Not rushed, not emotional, but surgical. First, Ben forwarded the video clip, to the journalist who had already published the first expose on Caleb. We didn't send it anonymously this time. We sent it with a name, a statement, and a full timeline. I signed it. Alex Keller, former co-owner of the residence featured in this footage, and brother to Caleb Keller. It felt right, like we're claiming something. My name, my voice. Next, we timed a coordinated release across multiple channels, Reddit, Twitter, even a few startup forums where Caleb's name still held some weight. We didn't flood them, just one link per platform, one headline, startup founder caught on home surveillance after affair and fraud allegations surface. The post included the video, a redacted financial timeline, and a Dropbox link labeled full documentation for transparency. By the time we hit post, there was no going back. The fallout hit faster than I expected. Within an hour, the video was reposted over 100 times. It made the front page of a tech gossip subreddit within 2. People dissected every second. Caleb's smirk at the camera, Chloe's laugh, the casual cruelty in their voices. The comment sections turned rabid. Who records himself like this? This is sociopath behavior. Wait, this is his brother's house. By morning, the story had been picked up by a national startup blog. And by noon, Caleb's name was trending on X. He went dark. No posts, no statements, nothing. Then came the real consequences. The first investor, the one Hannah had originally tipped off, filed a formal complaint with the state attorney's office. Others followed. The SEC opened an inquiry. The startup board, what was left of it, released a one-paragraph statement: "We are aware of recent allegations and are cooperating with legal authorities." Effective immediately, Caleb Keller is no longer affiliated with this organization. Gone. Just like that. His startup collapsed within 48 hours. Sponsorships pulled out. Business contacts severed ties. One of his biggest angel investors, a tech CEO with a large following, posted a thread titled, "How I Was Duped by a Grifter in a Suit." Hannah sent it to me with a champagne emoji. But it wasn't over, because while Caleb's empire was crumbling, I still had one final thread to pull. Chloe. After the initial wave of chaos, I reached out. I hadn't spoken to her in weeks. Not since the divorce finalized. I didn't owe her anything, but I wanted her to see what we'd done. I wanted her to know. We met in a neutral place, a botanical garden halfway between our old house and my new apartment. She showed up in sunglasses and a black coat, like she was trying to blend into the background. I didn't sugarcoat it. I posted the footage. She didn't speak for a moment. Then she took off her sunglasses. Her eyes were red. "You really hate me that much?" she asked. "No," I said. "I don't hate you. I just stopped protecting you." She looked away. "I lost my job this week. Someone forwarded the video to HR. They said it was a question of integrity. I've been fielding calls from family all day. My mom thinks I need therapy. My dad won't even speak to me." I nodded slowly. "That's rough." She winced. Do you feel better now?" "No," I said honestly. "I feel done." She bit her lip, then asked something I didn't expect. "Was it ever real between us?" I studied her face. The face I once loved. The face that lied to me. For me, it was. "But I think you loved the life more than the person." She didn't deny it. We didn't hug. We didn't cry. We just parted ways. She disappeared from the city a week later. Moved back in with her parents 2 states over. Last I heard, she was working at a small legal firm under a different name. She blocked me on everything. I didn't care. Caleb, meanwhile, tried to fight back. He went on a podcast a month later and tried to set the record straight. He called the footage misleading and said the financial accusations were orchestrated by bitter people with a vendetta. He blamed me. He blamed Hannah. He even tried to blame the media, but the damage was done. The host cut the episode before it even aired. The clips that did leak made him look unhinged. Desperate. A man cornered by the consequences he'd never expected to face. His accounts were drained by legal fees. His reputation was scorched. The family who once shielded him silent. Maria called me once. I let it ring. Months passed. I poured myself into rebuilding, but not in the way people think. I didn't try to replace what I lost. I didn't jump into a new relationship or chase validation. I took long walks. I saw Dr. Reed weekly. I started painting again, something I hadn't done since college. I made a habit of eating at this quiet diner every Sunday morning, alone by choice. And slowly, peace returned. Hannah and I stayed in touch. No labels, no pressure, just 2 people who understood each other's scars. One evening, she came over with Chinese takeout and asked, "Do you ever wonder what would have happened if we hadn't said anything? If we just walked away?" I thought about it. "Then they would have won," I said. "And we'd still be bleeding in silence." She smiled. "I like this version better." So did I. I thought revenge would feel loud, explosive, triumphant, but it wasn't. It was quiet. It was surgical. It was the slow, steady reclaiming of power stolen from me one lie at a time. And in the end, it didn't make me whole again, but it made me free. And for the first time in years, I wasn't the one left cleaning up someone else's mess. I was the one who burned the whole house down. The weight of it all still sits with me, a ghost in the corners of my quiet life. But it's a ghost I can live with now. It taught me that sometimes, the only way to truly heal is to face the fire head on. What would you have done if your entire world was built on lies?